Again, welcome to today's program, Commerce Highlights from Adobe Summit.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, look at that. Well, welcome to Adobe Summit, everybody. It's awesome to feel the energy in this room. And for the thousands of people joining us online, really appreciate you joining us and to be connecting with you.
Today, we're announcing the beta of something called Adobe Firefly. Firefly is a family of Adobe-owned generative models specifically created for content generation for creative output.
We're also announcing a family of Sensei GenAI services. Anticipate that over time, generative AI will really help us reimagine every aspect of marketing.
Now is the time to get after your digital transformation. We have a unique window of opportunity where our customers are familiar with digital, where we have, through partnerships with companies like Adobe, the tools and the experiences that allow us to be successful.
Embrace change in your careers and in your lives, and it's not going to be easy, but you're really going to appreciate it.
It's great to be back together. Thank you, and see you tomorrow, everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karho Chan, and I'll be conducting the session today. Let's start with a couple highlights first. So the session that we're going to be talking through is called a Boosted Retail Wireless Experience, Dish and Adobe. So it really is for us to share with you the Adobe journey that Dish client of ours has gone through. I'll start with some introductions. My name is Karho Chan, Delivery Director Lead, part of the Commerce Solutions Group within Perficient Incorporated. I co-presented this session at the Summit with Travis Cole, who is an IT Director at the Retail Wireless Division at Dish. So, while we were able to co-present, Travis couldn't be here with us today, so I'll be presenting both parts. But I'm really eager to tell everybody the story of how Dish has leveraged the Adobe platform, the Adobe tools to create the solution that we've developed for them. And hopefully you'll gain some insights. And once again, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please go ahead and type those questions into the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get to some of those at the end. Starting off, and maybe just giving you a little bit of background around Dish. Dish is essentially a company with many different business segments. Dish operates, and most of you may be familiar with Dish's satellite business, hence the name Dish. But they were founded in 1980, and that they have a very big business across a number of various subscription services. Dish Satellite being still one of those businesses where they're there to reach customers that still don't have. They may be in more remote regions or areas that don't have the types of service that they can normally get through like a cable or through other means. So Dish Satellite business is still a big part of their business. They also operate a Sling TV business, which is a subscription web-based streaming TV service. And most recently is that Dish did acquire Boost Mobile as part of an acquisition, and as a result, they have forged into the Boost Mobile side of the business, where they're offering wireless services to a large number of customers. So that sort of helps lay down the context of some of what Dish does, hopefully. Dish is really on a mission. They got into the wireless business really because they want to be part of and they want to build the next smart network for 5G services in the US. So it is a huge endeavor for them. It is something that they're very focused on, and as a result, they're really trying to redefine the way that people are leveraging 5G service in general, and they're trying to be that next big player of 5G services within the US. So it is a huge mission statement for them. A brief history was that in 2020, Dish acquired Boost Mobile, and from there they really started partnering with other systems and providing service through additional networks. From there, was when we initially launched. They initially launched the retail wireless business side of things, and after that, in 2022, they started offering 5G network service. And so far, they have about 20% coverage of the US population across 120 different markets. In 2023 now, they've just launched what's called Boost Infinite, which is their postpaid brand. And so as Boost Mobile is more of a prepaid brand, Boost Infinite is a postpaid brand. And that's something that they've just released to the public market. One of the things that, when they first initially acquired the mobile wireless business in forms of Boost, they're really looking at how to service their customers in a different way, as I mentioned before. And one of those key things was they wanted to build everything from the ground up. The network was built from ground up. They wanted all their tools to also be revamped and optimized so that they could serve their customers. So that's where the story of Adobe comes along. So some of the objectives really is that as part of their foray into the wireless business is that they want to deliver a great customer experience. As we know, everything is about experience, ease of use these days, and so they wanted a cutting edge and a modern view in terms of how they're serving their customers, how they're interacting with them, and so they really wanted to ensure that they have that customer focus and that experience throughout all of their interaction points. Some of the key aspects of the solution, though, as you may or may not be aware, is that supporting wireless customers is not easy. It's very complex. It involves a lot of integrations, a lot of communications via different systems. When customers purchase a phone plan, they pop that SIM card into their phone. They're expecting to be able to get mobile service in a matter of moments. And so going through the various integrations, getting to the point that they can get that customer up and running in a very short time is not trivial. So it was very complex. In addition to that, there are pretty aggressive timelines that Dish needed to achieve in order to get their business up and running. They have huge aspirations, and obviously everything is very they're very focused on being up and and getting into the market and being able to support and serve customers immediately was a big goal for them. Now, one of the key things is that while they were leveraging some legacy systems to support existing customers initially after the acquisition, the goal really was this new solution and platform that was being built would initially support an MVP, but also need to be scaled so that it could support eventually all the customers that Dish has on Boost. And in addition to that, there are also a variety of different brands that they need to support. So being able to control costs, but also deliver unique brand experiences was a big thing for them. So challenges in terms of things that we need to overcome, or they need to overcome, was that the Dish wireless business needed a solution, and they needed it quickly. They didn't really have a lot of time to sort of figure out what to do, and they needed to make sure that they could get up and running quickly with a reusable solution. The integrations, obviously, as mentioned before, were complex and numerous, so they needed a robust platform that could assist them through that and to get them up and running and be able to connect to the different backend systems that they needed to integrate with. The experience, as mentioned, is key, and they wanted to be able to change that experience on an ongoing basis. So having strong authoring and content management capabilities and having the flexibility to put together the right content that they needed at the right time, and being able to share that across different brands was a key thing for them. And being new to, in large part, some of the new Adobe technologies, they needed a partner that could help them through that. And from there, the goal really is to grow the solution from a starting point, almost from an infancy, to the point where they're stable and they can run and operate and build and grow from that point. So they obviously chose the Adobe Experience Cloud as their platform, and partnering with Proficient, which is the company I work for, we were able to get the first site launched by October of 2021, which was roughly about 10 months, 8 to 9 to 10 months after we started this entire journey, was when we were able to get the first experience up, which is really an incredible achievement, given the fact that it was not only our team doing a lot of the Adobe work, but also a huge army of people, you could say, in the behind the scenes, doing all the integrations to the various systems to support that front end experience. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll talk a bit about the solution itself and what was implemented. The solution is really a combination of a variety of the tools that are available through Adobe. Adobe Commerce and Adobe Experience Manager currently work together to form a shared glass experience. And the reason why we went with this approach really was that we wanted to make sure that given the fact that Adobe Commerce already provides a number of buy flow experiences, browsing experiences, there's a lot that could be reused just from the get-go, from the platform, from the sample store that was available. And keeping in mind that timelines were crucial, we didn't have the luxury of really going and building a full headless solution from the get-go. The goal was that we wanted to first build out the first experience, which was customer facing, and leveraging the available assets out of the box. We were able to customize and build a experience where customers could go in, purchase or select a phone plan, select add-ons, purchase a device even, and then through that check out and get their service activated. So what we're doing is we're really leveraging Commerce for the buy flow, and then from a AEM perspective, we use that to drive more of the content perspective, things like the homepage, FAQs, all the content pages used to tell the Boost story, whereas where we concentrate our AEM efforts on. The entire experience is currently set up so that we can collect analytics on it through Adobe Analytics, but also run experiments on Adobe Target. And through that first experience, what we did was we then started branching off, and we started creating separate experiences, leveraging that same foundation so that we could drive point of sale. So customers that are walking into a Boost store, when they're going in to activate a phone or activate a phone plan, agents inside the store are actually using a Adobe Commerce driven interface so that they can do that. They're able to do things such as look up the customer, change their plan, add additional add-ons to their plan, be able to activate SIM cards. So all of that is done in store via Adobe Commerce front end. And it's really just a different view into the same integrations and that same foundation that was established for the customer experience. Likewise, when you call Boost and you're talking to them over the phone, the agent that is over the phone is actually leveraging screens, once again, that are provided through Adobe Commerce so that they can provide that service to a customer to make account adjustments as necessary. It's a really nice story where we're able to leverage a singular foundation of what was built and connected to their dish backend systems to serve customers through multiple channels. In the architecture that we actually established was that we set up Adobe Commerce with a singular code base, single instance, and from there we're able to spin off multiple different experiences. So as I was describing on the Boost mobile side, we're supporting currently an English site, but we're actually in the midst of translating that site into Spanish and providing a Spanish version. And I also mentioned that we're supporting CSRs and in-store experiences through that for Boost Mobile. Now on Boost Infinite, which is their postpaid brand, which was just launched, we leveraged the similar code base. And what we're doing is we're adding some custom flows, but in addition to that, providing some net new integrations and driving Adobe Boost Infinite through that same code base. So it's really a concept where we were able to expand and really leverage that singular code base and expand it so that we're using it across different customer or user groups, I should say, in terms of end customers, CSRs, in-store reps are able to access the system as well as provide unique experiences from a branding perspective. And in the case of Boost Infinite, we're actually also providing services to drive some of the capabilities on the Boost mobile app. So that's a good headless, you could say, interface story that we've actually built for them. And currently, we are in the process of actually exploring, exposing additional services for the overall solution so that they can be leveraged not only for Boost, but also for other applications as well. What we're trying to do as part of this solution, and is really a good demonstration, is that we're leveraging Adobe in this case as really our integration orchestration layer, where it's talking to the variety of different master systems in the background, but at the end, it's the same experience that a customer is able to receive regardless of what channel that they're interacting with. So if you are a customer that walks into a store, you're getting the rep behind the counter is going to get the same information about that customer as if they were going to, if you were to use your phone and access the Boost website and looked up your customer information, and it would be the same information also as if a customer service rep over the phone was looking up your account. It's really that same customer experience, but really presented in different ways. It's the same information because all of that flows through a singular platform, and that is accessing the same backend systems that Dish currently has. So the cool thing about that is that it provides customers with a very, you could say, streamlined and also consistent experience, regardless of the channel they're interacting. It doesn't feel disjointed, and that customers are able to make changes and see them live, essentially, regardless of how they choose to interact. It also provides a lot of power towards Dish because now they're able to eventually go and forth and start collecting information about that customer, regardless of the channel. They're able to then track interaction points of that customer as they are connecting with Dish. And we'll sort of learn about some of that in the upcoming slides as well. So some of the lessons learned, because every project, obviously, of this level of complexity, we always learn things. We always find out, maybe things that we should have done, maybe things we could have changed. And so these are some of the unique ones that Dish learned. So first of all, what's unique about Dish is that customers, because of the nature of the customers, especially when they walk into a retail location, is that emails are not always unique. And this could be a result of, typos being entered while customer rep behind the counter is typing in your customer's email. It could be that a customer doesn't want to disclose an email, but the email is not a unique key for us in this solution. Customers, we can't use that as we normally would be able to within a commerce system. So we had to actually develop and leverage a separate unique key to make sure that we're keeping customer accounts unique, since emails in our system are not unique. So that was definitely something that was a bit of a journey and a learning experience, because understanding the customer, you could say, the nature of the customers and how the customers operate, interact with the actual systems was something that we needed to account for. Secondarily was that, I mentioned before that we needed to get up and running quickly. So we leveraged Luma as the initial store that we would start building from. And, from that store model, sample store, we were able to build a site that was fairly, we were able to build the browse and buy experiences fairly quickly. However, when it came down to performance, we needed to definitely go back in and look at the pages and actually start removing things that we didn't necessarily need, because as you know, within the Luma store, there may be things that are included from a demonstration perspective, but aren't needed from a site operation perspective, especially if those are things that Dish didn't require. So there was some definite cleanup that we need to do afterwards. But it was a great starting point, I would say. The third thing I would mention is that checkout in general is complex. Whenever we are leveraging the checkout flow natively out of the box, it usually works quite well. It's able to do the job, and we can actually get it up and running fairly quickly without much effort. But because of the nature in which we wanted to streamline the checkout flow for customers, especially when they're registering and signing up on a phone, the customizations and changes to the checkout became complex, and that's just something that any practitioner or user of the Adobe Commerce platform needs to be aware of. If you are going to be building a checkout experience that's unique to the platform, you should consider, whether to just build a custom checkout or to go with the one natively out of the box, because if you are leveraging Luma, because changes to that could become complex, and that's something that we learned along the way as we continuously adjusted the checkout. And the last thing that we learned also is that from a content perspective, what's unique about our solution is because we have a shared glass between Commerce and AM, the two systems both will support have some content management capabilities. And as a result, we really need to define the scope of ownership between Commerce and AM from a content perspective. One of the key things that we also discovered is that, because sometimes the content is just easier, for example, from an end user to manage, it might be easier just to have them do those changes within Commerce versus in AM. So any customer that is, or any user of the platform, should really think about how you're leveraging, the content authoring capabilities, and whether or not you want to have and if you're going with a shared glass solution, you really need to think about who owns what piece of the content, and how do you drive some of the how do you enable your customers to modify the content, and what's the best way for them, because from a process flow perspective, it might make sense to use one versus the other. Moving along, additional unique insights that we gained as a result of the project is that Dish actually has several marketing initiatives that they currently embark upon. One is that they wanted to start marketing programs such that a customer would receive a link through an email or through a marketing channel and be able to click on that, and then be able to essentially funnel all of that information from that single click into a order flow. So we call that a permalink. And what's unique about this is that customers are able to essentially receive a marketing event. Maybe it's a cell phone plan promotion in which they're looking at it, and when they click on that, they get everything prepared for them, and they land on the checkout page. All the add-ons, all the plans are pre-selected. It could be a phone that's actually selected, and that everything's already prepared, and they're ready to now just capture your checkout information and be able to place that order. And because of the unique nature of the integrations and the amount of information that's required to prepare that order that's unique to the Dish business, that became quite complex for us, particularly because, from a customer perspective, we sort of pre-create some of this information before we land in checkout. We need to also capture the customer's identity to some degree, so we can calculate shipping charges and provide and pre-populate some of this information already within a shell of a user account. That posed not only a technical challenge, but I would say also a performance challenge. So there's quite a bit of work put into this particular experience to ensure that the screen, like the checkout screen, would load in a timely manner, that all the information around that order was prepared correctly, so that the customer would be able to not have to wait around forever in order for that checkout screen to appear. So that was something definitely that was unique to our project, that I would say is not something that we normally encounter. Another thing is that for for the Dish solution, Adobe Commerce is not really the primary master of all the information. We have backend systems, like we have a backend customer master, also an order master system. So given that, the information actually within Adobe is transient in nature. And because customers also interact with Dish via a variety of systems, as a result of that, the information that is within Commerce may not be 100% up to date all the time, especially because there are things that CSRs and in-store agents can do against the customer account and the customer master that are outside of Commerce's domain. In particular, they can update, for example, the order status of an order, and that has to do with, say, fulfillment of phones or SIM cards, and that's not something that occurs within Commerce. So as a result, what we actually end up doing is that we cleanse the data from Adobe at the end of the session, and then we recreate everything when a customer signs in through the identity authentication. And what this does is allows us to start every Commerce experience with a fairly clean slate. And it actually was deemed easier to do it this way versus trying to synchronize information between Commerce and the backend system as changes were going on. It actually just became easier for us to do everything in through this manner versus trying to synchronize. So that was unique. And I guess the last insight that we've learned, and I sort of preluded to this before, is that in the past, when customers interacted with Dish, they noticed that customers would remain fairly sticky to the channel they started. So an in-store customer would go in and they would continue to go into the store to make changes, go with purchase upgrades or make changes in terms of their devices and plans. And what was interesting was that they noticed a gradual shift of customers moving from a in-store channel to an online channel. And this, I think, primarily is a result of the fact that customers were slowly seeing that the online tooling had caught up with things, and that it was the same information they were getting in store versus online or via their mobile phones. So it was a good story, you could say, where we're definitely seeing some dividends pay off, where customers are becoming more self-aware, they're becoming more self-serve versus relying on a more heavier process perhaps to go in store and make changes and make updates and make purchases. So that was a pretty unique that was pointed out. Now, having said all this, what's next for Dish? So obviously, we've done a ton of work with them. We've been working with Dish for about two and a half years almost now on this program. From the initial discussions through to where we are, we've launched multiple brands, multiple experiences for them. What's next? So, one of the things that we are in the midst of doing is that customers are being moved from the legacy systems over to the new systems. So we'll continue to see growing traffic volumes on the new Adobe solution, and as a result, we're going to have to look at things like performance to ensure that we're handling that properly. Obviously, customers are going to be using the new Adobe solution to sign into their accounts, to make changes, to make payments, but also, net new customers are going to be coming in, and they're going to be going in to look at their account information and make purchases. And that's one of the things that as volumes increase and as the solution scales, we're going to need to make sure that the site keeps up with the traffic and that it continues to perform. One of the key focus areas is also opening up the solution so that it can serve additional customers in different languages. I think Spanish, I mentioned before, is one of the key things that we're targeting to get the site to support. And what's great is that the platform natively already supports translation, and getting Spanish done won't be very difficult, which is good news. The other aspect is really looking at accessibility and to do an analysis on the solution to ensure that it's accessible to customers regardless of the type of browser or channel that they're interacting with from a customer to Dish perspective. Site search is going to be also a focus area for Dish. One of the things that we haven't done is introduce a search capability on the site, and primarily that was because the product set was not that complex. But as Dish adds additional phones, devices, accessories, and peripherals, site search, adding a site search is going to definitely be helpful. And also, when we think about it, how does that search interact with, for example, static content on the site? How does it search and handle FAQ information that's posted on the site, things like that? So those are all things that we'll continue to investigate into. One of the unique things that I mentioned before was how we're using the solution in a multi-channel perspective, and how Adobe Commerce is sort of providing that front end towards driving some of the experiences for end customers, but also in store. So another area of growth and experimentation will be for us to look at the point of sale itself and to see if we can drive more of a point of sale experience through that, and to see if we can add more capabilities to a in-store representative so that they can do more for the customer through a single interface. Adding additional integrations and capabilities to the current mobile app is also definitely something that's on the docket. We'd be looking to see if we can expose additional endpoints from either AEM or Adobe Commerce, so that we can experiment and see if we can drive some content and you could catalog and integrations into the mobile app to provide additional capabilities. Right now, the mobile app is more of a monitoring tool. You can get your status and get your account information, but I think one of the key growth areas will be, how well can we add additional capabilities to that mobile app, and through the exposure of additional endpoints from Adobe, we believe that we can definitely achieve this. What's interesting also is in thinking about some of the things that are on the Adobe Commerce roadmap with API Mesh and App Builder. Can we aggregate, for example, various endpoints and combine them together so that we can expose more simplified and singular API endpoints for other applications such as the mobile app to integrate with. And lastly, I would say is that with we didn't have to deal with a lot of holiday events or holiday traffic thus far on the Adobe platform, because the solution was launched initially to a smaller group, and now that we're starting to really see the volume and the customers moved over to the new platform, we are expecting a lot of customers to be watching for any holiday-driven, sales or events that could drive some traffic volatility. And so the site will definitely need to be monitored and also tuned to handle such events. I know that we've run some Black Friday events already, and we've run some additional back-to-school events. So these are all things that we'll need to continue to plan for as a result of the build out of the solution. So hopefully this provided everyone with a good overview of the solution that Dish that was built for Dish, and that we've been able to explain to you guys some of the benefits of what we've been able to achieve through leveraging the Adobe Experience Cloud. At this point, that is the end of my last slide. Perhaps what we can do is open it up to some questions.
What was the biggest compelling factor driving the need for this project? This is the first one.
So I would say that that's a great question. I think that one of the biggest compelling factors for this project really was that Dish had acquired and it was moving into a new line of business for them. So it's a huge endeavor. and that they knew that they needed to build something and get up and running quickly. They didn't have the luxury of really, architecting a complex solution and figuring out how to build it. They needed something, a platform really to help jumpstart their innovation and be able to allow them to deliver the experiences that they needed and needed to do it quickly. So that was one of the big drivers for them to pick Adobe as their platform of choice, because Adobe Commerce and AM combined to some of the other tools in the suite provided them that ability to really drive that content and commerce type of solution, where they knew that they would have transactional capabilities, but also a heavy storytelling and content experience that was needed. So definitely that was one of the biggest driving factors for the project, is that they needed a solution to provide to support their next generation of customers. The next question I see here is, why was Adobe Experience Cloud chosen as the solution for this project? Were there other competitors that came into play? So I will say that, when they initially started looking at, their commerce and integration needs, they were also looking at their content authoring needs. I will say that, with the scale of the business they were looking for, they needed an enterprise level solution. And of that, I would say there aren't that many competitors that can provide the unique story that Adobe is able to provide from a content and a commerce perspective, to be able to provide that full suite of products end to end. The other competitors were either not quite at the enterprise level, or they didn't have the enterprise level capabilities that Adobe provides. So that was definitely one of the reasons why they picked Adobe. And that they're still looking at different parts of the Adobe suite. They're still looking to see if they can integrate those tools and those capabilities into the overall experience. As I mentioned before, we've already enabled Target, for example, and they are doing quite a bit of experimentation right now, both on the Boost side, but also the Sling business has fully leveraged the Adobe suite of products, and they're in they've delivered a Adobe headless cart experience right now using an AM glass, and that's where they're doing quite a bit of experimentation there as well. So it really is a solution that they bought into across the entire company. Okay. The next question I have in queue is, what is the top benefit that Adobe Experience Cloud has delivered for Dish on the commerce side of the business? So I will say that the one of the top benefits is that its strength from an integrations perspective. The way that it has been able to, we've been able to plug in commerce and use it to aggregate a number of different integrations provided by the backend to provide that seamless front end experience. I will say that many customers, they may sometimes say, well, I have a backend system, I have an integration layer. Let me just integrate my custom front end to that. And I will say that while you can do that, what Commerce provides is that state, you could say that while when you're constructing an order, it's before you have the order, you have that you could say a constructed order as it is in flight. I'll call it, right, and that it's super important for Dish to be able to see a customer as they're in the process of putting that order together, because it allows them then to identify where there's potentially drop off. It allows the customer to go back to an order that's in flight and be able to complete it later on. So I would say that having a commerce as an integration aggregation layer to be able to broker a number of services together to provide that experience on the front end that makes sense. And also being able to allow us to build those front ends so that they're less complex and less heavy from a brokering perspective was really helpful. So definitely a huge advantage. And right now we're funneling, I would say hundreds of integrations right now through Commerce through to the Apogee backend systems, through to third-party systems, and Adobe Commerce has really been that platform that we've been able to do all of that through. The next question that I have is, how many Tenet stores are reasonably supported in the implementation? So right now, I would say that we don't really have a necessarily number, I would say, that we can support. I would say that we can probably support quite a few, though, from a commerce front-end perspective, because what we're doing is, while we have, we're sort of leveraging that common code base, customers are entering through different storefronts, you could say, and that we're sort of treating each channel as its own store. We're also treating each of the languages as its own store view. So I would say that we don't really see a limit to the number of stores that we could potentially spin off that would prevent us from doing what we need to do in the short term. Okay, so I would say quite a few from my understanding. Any other questions that anybody might have? If you do have any, please feel free to type them up into the Q&A. Do you support spending accounts and allowances? So if I can maybe interpret the question, and feel free to reply, Gerald, if you have some clarity. But I'm guessing, do we have the ability to maybe add money to an account and spend it down? Is that the nature of the question? I will say that for Dish, for Boost in particular, it is based on a prepay model. So Boost Infinite's postpay, and Boost is a prepay. So what customers actually do is that they would normally log into their account and essentially prepay a certain amount of money onto their account, so that, and they then sign up for monthly service, and all of that is done through Adobe Commerce right now. So as a customer pays their account, they're able to then view the amount of money they have in their account, and that's also provided through a integration that we have between Adobe Commerce and backend systems that keep track of how much money is associated with your account, and what your when you need to top off, and we also have auto payment set up so that we can actually auto submit a payment from for a customer, so that they don't forget to pay, and hence have their account run out of money. So and the way that it sort of works is it's your prepay model, where you've sort of set up a certain amount that you're sort of signed up for a plan that will cost a certain amount per month, and that's sort of deducted off of your ongoing account balance. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. But all of that is achieved through a integration. And I will say that this is also a bit unique in the solution, in that it is supportive of a subscription model. So I know subscriptions are natively not available within Adobe Commerce, though there are extensions that you can download to support subscriptions. But this is a really good use case in which we were able to drive a subscription model and experience through the platform, interacting with the backend that controls the actual subscription of record. Okay.
Great.
I see you.
Oh, another question.
Yep. Definitely something that can be done. I would say that as long as customers are set up. So the question is, I'm looking at apparel sites that have corporate pre-funding allowances, say $100 for hospital scrubs per employee. So if customers themselves, each user has a preset amount, that's certainly something that can be set up for Adobe Commerce to handle the experience for. So the tracking of, you could say the spend down of a amount within the a particular user's account, and the addition of, I guess, rules when a user doesn't have sufficient funds, whether they fund that themselves through additional payments or other mechanisms, but certainly something that can be done. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for attending again, and hopefully everybody has a great rest of your day.